There is a kind of tiredness that feels different from ordinary fatigue, not just a need for sleep, but a sense that the mind itself has been carrying more than it can comfortably hold. You may notice it in small moments, reading the same sentence twice, forgetting what you walked into a room to do, finding that even simple decisions feel heavier than they once did. Have you ever experienced that quiet fog, wherein effort seems to cost more than usual? Mental exhaustion does not always arrive dramatically. Often it gathers gradually, through responsibilities accepted without complaint, or restless thoughts revisited again and again, all filtered through the steady background hum of concerns that rarely switch off, each part manageable on its own, together something entirely different. There can be a narrowing where attention shortens and patience thins. Noise feels sharper while interruptions feel larger, not because the world has suddenly changed, but because the reserves that meet it feel lower. Sometimes, in this state, the mind begins to judge itself. Comparisons arise, questions about resilience, subtle pressure to be sharper, quicker, and more capable. Have you ever noticed how easily exhaustion turns inwards, as though tiredness were a personal flaw rather than a human rhythm? In many contemplative traditions, there is an understanding that all systems move in cycles: activity and rest, expansion and contraction, effort and stillness. When effort continues without pause, contraction eventually follows, not as punishment, but as balance. You may still be functioning outwardly, answering messages and meeting obligations to keep things in motion. Yet inside, something quieter may be asking for less input, stimulation, and decision-making. Have you ever noticed that when energy runs low, even ordinary choices can feel disproportionately complex? Mental exhaustion can blur the edges of experience. Moments pass without leaving much trace, and pleasures can often feel muted. Even rest can seem incomplete, as though the system has not yet caught up with itself. There is often no clear line between pushing through and needing rest, only the subtle sense that something has been overextended. It can be helpful to observe how the body responds in these phases: shoulders lifting slightly without awareness, breath staying shallow, jaw tightening during concentration. Not signals of failure, just signs of sustained engagement. Sometimes the body reveals what the mind has not yet acknowledged. Have you found that in exhaustion, the future feels heavier than usual? Tasks that once seemed manageable now appear stacked together. Time itself can feel compressed, as though everything is arriving at once. Yet in this moment, there is only this moment. Breath moving in and breath moving out. Imagine that nothing beyond that is occurring right now. In Buddhist thought, there is a quiet emphasis on impermanence. Energy rises, energy falls, clarity comes, clarity goes. Even exhaustion, which can feel endless while it is present, belongs to this same movement. Have you noticed that no inner state has ever remained unchanged forever? That does not make the current state easier, but it may soften the sense that it is permanent. Mental exhaustion often speaks less about weakness and more about sustained effort. A system that has been attentive, responsive, or alert for too long will find that eventually, even vigilance tires. There is a certain dignity in recognizing limits. Like setting down a heavy bag without commentary, the bag still exists, the responsibilities remain. But for a moment, the weight is not in your hands. Sometimes restoration does not arrive through effort, but through a gradual easing of what has been carried. Attention narrows on its own. The number of things demanding energy begins to thin. not because everything has been resolved, but because the system can no longer hold everything at once. Experience becomes simpler, quieter, less crowded. This shift is rarely dramatic. It may show itself in small ways: a slightly slower breath, a moment when the surrounding noise recedes into the background, or a brief sense that nothing is being asked of you right now. These changes can be so modest that they are easy to overlook, yet they sometimes alter the internal pace more than expected. After periods of deep fatigue, clarity often returns in this same understated way, not as a sudden surge of motivation, and not as a burst of inspiration, but as a quiet steadiness that makes ordinary things feel manageable again. A task is completed without strain. A conversation flows without effort. A thought that once circled tightly loosens its grip. These shifts can be subtle enough to pass unnoticed unless attention rests gently on them, without trying to measure or interpret what is happening. For now, this moment does not have to be evaluated. It can simply be experienced as it is, without reference to productivity or performance. Lower energy does not remove a person's place in the world, just as a slower pace does not remove belonging. Life continues to unfold at many speeds at once. Some contemplative traditions speak of balance not as a fixed state, but as an ongoing adjustment, a quiet movement between effort and ease. This adjustment rarely announces itself. It emerges through small changes in attention, through noticing what feels sustainable, through an inward sense that less may be sufficient for now. If exhaustion is present, it can be regarded as one phase within a larger movement, rather than something that defines the whole. Not a destination, and not an identity. More like a season that has arrived without being invited, and that will eventually give way to another. Seasons do not require effort to change. They shift gradually, often before anyone fully realizes that the transition has begun. For this moment, it may be enough simply to remain here, breathing, existing, participating in whatever level of energy is available. Even tiredness can be approached with a kind of quiet respect, as though it were part of the body's way of asking for a different tempo. Perhaps that is sufficient for now. A little awareness, a little space, and the possibility that the internal pace may settle on its own. If you found this video helpful, please support this space by clicking like and subscribe. It really helps these videos reach others who might be struggling too. Thank you for being here, and take care.